Now we'll look at best practices for trimming and extending existing hair. You may notice in the N-Hair menu that there is something called the Scale Hair tool, and I want to steer you away from that. All it does is scale the curves up, and what it does is it doesn't just make the hair longer, it makes the hair larger, which means it will be thicker. And it also means that things like curls and braiding will not work properly. So again, I don't recommend that you use the Scale Hair tool, and I don't recommend that you scale the follicles or curves using the ordinary scale command. Instead, you want to use the Paint Hair Follicles tool. To start, you will select the object to which the hair has been applied. In this case, it's the scalp. So I want to unreference that scalp so I can select it. And then go to the N-Hair menu and choose Paint Hair Follicles options. And now you've got different modes available to you up here. Previously, when we went in here, we could only create follicles. But now we can trim and extend hairs and edit the follicle attributes. Let's look at trimming hairs. We're going to trim the hair system shape 1. When we trim the hairs, we will also be changing the number of points. So if we trimmed it a lot, we may want to reduce the number of points here. Or if we extended it a lot, we may want to increase the number of points. Strangely, this hair length attribute here doesn't do anything. So you can just leave that alone. You can play with that all you want. It does not actually affect anything. What really matters is over here in the tool settings, the paint operation and the value. And the default value is actually 1, which means that if you start painting here, nothing will happen. Because what you're doing is you're multiplying the current length by 1. Okay, so a value of 1 will have no effect. If we want to make the hair shorter, we need to have a fractional value here. So if I set this down to a value of, let's say, 0.9, then when I draw my mouse across the surface here, I'll be multiplying those hairs by a length of 0.9. So I'll just do that, get in a little bit closer, and drag across, and you can see that I'm reducing the length of those hairs. It's easiest to see up here on the border areas. Now, the paint operation is also important here. If you choose Replace, then as long as you don't exit the tool, then you're limiting the length to 0.9 of the original length, whatever that was. But if you choose Scale, then each time you click your mouse, then you will be scaling that value down by 0.9. So I can continue to make these shorter and shorter if I wanted. That's not really what I want to do here now, but it's important for you to know the difference between Replace and Scale. I'll undo that a couple of times and bring that back out where it was. I generally use the Replace function always, so I don't have any issues with hairs coming out a length other than what I expected. We can extend the hairs in the same way. We can go to Extend Hairs, and in this case, we would want to have a value greater than 1. And that means we would need to increase this maximum value here, because if I tried to set this up to a value of, let's say, 1.5, I can't. And again, nothing really happens here. This is just restoring them back to their original lengths. But if I wanted to extend, I would need to set the max value up here to, let's say, 1.5. And then I'm able to set the actual value to 1.5. And now I'm extending those hairs beyond their original length. Okay, so that takes a little bit of getting used to. Again, ignore this hair length over here and work exclusively with these values here. And remember that Replace will limit the value and Scale will continue to multiply the value with each mouse stroke.